locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke loves wrestling.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
See what?
Well, you know, C means yes in Spanish.
Yeah, I know that, genius.
Well, CCC is the catchphrase for Alberto El Patron.
You mean the big drama queen?
Hey, be careful there.
That guy's on TMZ more than he's on wrestling.
As Alberto would say, perro. That's right.
Yeah, you know what? Stick to English. How about that?
Whatever, wise guy. Welcome back to Duke Loves Wrestling. I am the Duke, and yes, I do enjoy doing pro wrestler impersonations, and I'm going to keep on doing them no matter what my illustrious co-host, the Boston bad boy, Iron Mike Pelosi, says.
I didn't think they could be any worse, but in another language, they're actually worse.
I thought I was pretty good at that.
As you usually do, and you're usually wrong.
Oh, my goodness. Pro wrestling badass Simply Luscious, she joins us on this episode. She's going to talk about being the first woman to graduate from Shawn Michaels' Texas Wrestling Academy. So I was going to talk about her crazy pro wrestling career, folks. Man, hold on to your seats. It's going to be something else. We also have more of your listener-submitted questions, a.k.a. Ask Duke. All that plus the top 5 stories in the world of professional wrestling. But before we get to any of that, Boston Bad Boy.
Yeah.
Are you all dug out from that blizzard from the other day?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, mostly iced up now. I mean, I just dug enough room for me to walk. And then, just to, I don't go out of my way to do more than I have to when it comes to shoveling.
You weren't one of those jerks that just wiped off the snow in the
just where you
little
can see
portion of your windshield.
Well, I do have the truck and the 4-wheel drive, and I usually don't shovel I just put it in 4-wheel drive and drive out of the snowbank.
Oh, boy.
So that's my usual mode.
Wow.
And, if you're driving behind me, that's your problem.
Bad out of hell. Oh, so all that snow on your roof just comes flying.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, you see the kind of piece of work this guy is, folks. I'm telling you. Listen, we had a huge snowstorm that stretched from Washington, D.C. all the way up to Maine. Yeah. I mean, in some areas, they literally had blizzard-like conditions because up to 60-mile-per-hour winds with all that. And
the idiotic news around here, you live in New England, it snows a lot here. Yeah. It does in the winter. That's just a fact of life. And, famously, we're known for the blizzard of 78, which shut the state down for like 3 weeks. It was just, but that's like 40 years ago. Anytime it snows now, the media wants you to think it's the blizzard of 78. They show the old footage.
It's ridiculous.
And every supermarket sells out of, bottled water, milk, and anything. Yeah, so people are buying milk and bread. How much milk and bread are you going to eat in 3 days?
And who really eats that every day?
And are you going to be stuck in your house for 6 weeks? It's not going to we're in modern era.
It's foolish.
And bottled water, if your municipal water goes out, you've got bigger problems than a snowstorm.
It's true. It's true. And, we had more snow, what was it, 2-3 years ago when we had like 110 inches of snow?
Within 3 or 4 weeks, now because it's been so little this year, they got to build everything up.
Of course. But
you know what you got to do? When you're in a snowstorm, I find the one thing you need to have, because it will last forever, is this product.
What?
Got to snap into a Slim Jim.
Oh, my God.
And it's funny. Someone posted something with the Macho Man earlier today on the page.
Yeah.
And Rudy commented. And I actually posed a question to Rudy. It said, do you think Macho Man made more money from endorsements for Slim Jim than he did wrestling? And Rudy said, I'm not sure. That's a good question. So I did a little research.
He did?
Well, from what I understand, and from what I was able to find on some message boards, that Slim Jim paid his contract so that the company didn't have to pay it?
Well, later on, yes.
So basically, the company got him for free.
Yep.
And he was being paid the equivalent of a wrestling contract.
Yep.
Now, what do you think the numbers are on that? Because I have no idea. At that time, what was a guy like him getting paid? $100,000?
No.
More?
There's more money than that, man. Especially when he made it to WCW.
Well, that's they were saying that
Slim Jim contract with him.
Right, and that was part of the feud, I guess, between him and McMahon. And somebody made the comment was, "Wow, McMahon could have essentially gotten Macho Man free."
Yep.
Because they covered the salary, and he still ended up going. That was how bad the breakup was between them.
Absolutely.
But you got to snap into that Slim Jim, I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah.
What's it say that of all that's got to be up to with the great advertising catchphrases?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
he's been passed away for years now. That was an old campaign, but anytime someone references a Slim Jim, that's what they go to.
Yep.
Right.
That's right.
And it's it's the whole thing.
It was the best. It was the best. But we're supposed to be getting ready for springtime.
Yeah.
And then this blizzard hits us.
Yeah.
Uncooperative.
Sure.
Okay?
But the climate isn't changing.
Well,
no,
I know,
not
of course
at all.
not. Of course not. You know who else is uncooperative?
Let me guess.
The Texas women's champion, Myka Madrid.
I had a feeling something like this was coming.
No, I got to tell you, she's been mouthing off online recently as
I wonder
well.
why.
And this is part of the reason why I'm having Simply Luscious on the show today.
Well, you have a vendetta, and you know what? People are going to get sick of your vendettas that you've invented for
Well,
yourself.
I'm just not happy with people like Myka Madrid who defend punks like Roman Reigns, and they think they can just carry on the way that they want. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You know?
I just think that no one, in the end, cares about your feud with Roman Reigns, and I think that they just say anything to get you to stop asking them about it.
That's not true.
Because that's how I feel every
That's
time
not
you
true.
bring it
That's
up.
very rude of you to say that. by
Well,
the way.
it's
not
true. I mean, it's
not
just
true.
it's the most
It's not true.
logical thing.
It's not true. It's not true. And you know something? I think that you owe me an apology. Seriously.
When do you think that's ever going to happen?
It should happen right now, actually.
No, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
Well, you know what? What I can do for you, and for our listeners mostly, is move this show along.
It's time to run the ropes. I give my opinion on the top 5 stories in the world of professional wrestling. Let's go. WWE tryouts and signings. Yes, folks, according to WWE.com, they have signed former Stardom wrestler Kerry Hojo, and they've given a tryout to Io Shirai. Now, let me tell you something. Make no mistake about it, folks. These two are two of the most promising female wrestlers in the entire world, okay? And they're going to make great additions to the WWE's women's division. Is this the makings of a Japanese stable? I mean, can you imagine if they paired these two ladies up with their friend Asuka? No wonder Nikki Bella is going to retire from wrestling. She doesn't want these hard-hitting ladies beating up on her, and I can't blame her, okay? You'll have to stay tuned as this develops. Another wrestler passes away. Yes, folks, it's with a heavy heart that I inform you listeners that the standout journeyman, the guy from Texas, Mr. Dennis Stamp, well, he'll be taking bumps in the great big wrestling ring in heaven. Stamp, he's known for being a favorite opponent to the Funks. He gave Bret Hart his first wrestling match, and most notably, especially in recent times, he's known as the guy who was jumping on trampolines and lifting dumbbells at the same time in the documentary Beyond the Mat. Okay, and we laugh about that affectionately because Dennis ended up being one of the biggest stars in the whole thing, and it actually gave his career. He was bigger after Beyond the Mat than he was his entire career.
Wasn't he also the self-proclaimed king of the cockroaches?
Yes, that's what he said. That's what he said.
Yeah.
You know,
So
But
you gotta list that amongst his titles.
absolutely. Well, the only thing that Dennis really wanted was to be known.
Yeah.
To be over.
Right. He wanted to be in the game.
And being himself on that documentary got him over.
Yeah, well, it says something when you talk about fans in wrestling that the biggest fans of wrestling are the wrestlers themselves.
Yep.
And here's a guy who, in that documentary, gives up a plane ticket that costs $100 to make $50 refereeing a match for Terry Funk.
It's true. It's
And
true.
he says does it. He goes, well, just like that's total geekdom in the best way possible. He said, you know what? My wife's probably going to kill me. I'm out at probably $200, but you'll pay me $50, right? To do
Yeah.
it. And he goes, yeah, I'll give you. Maybe I'll give you $100. He says.
Well, my favorite part of that, too, he says that he talked to his wife about it, and she goes, well, are you going to do it?
Right.
And he goes, are you kidding me? It's the main event.
Yeah, it's the
I'm
main-
going to be in the main event.
The main event, and it doesn't matter that he was in the Cow Palace.
Yep.
It wasn't televised. It was the main event,
and he was just the referee.
right.
But-
And he owned that. He
Oh,
had that
my
ref
God.
shirt ready to go. He
Absolutely.
tucked it in. He was coming out, and
Yep.
he just Had a ball with it.
Yeah, I mean, you love to see stuff like that. As ridiculous and over the top as it is, and hey, pro wrestling is that kind of business.
You try and carry dumbbells on a trampoline.
Oh my God,
you'll kill yourself.
And hey, the guy was in shape. He did what he did. You know,
anything other than that, and any unkind word said is just jealous.
Yeah, exactly. So hey, rest in heaven, Mr. Dennis Stamp. Is Mick Foley fired? Oh, boy. That's the question on everyone's mind, folks. After seeing the brutal tongue lashing and the slap in the face that he received from Stephanie McMahon on this past week's Raw, is this the official end for Mick Foley as a GM? I don't know. But listen, Mick is a good guy. But it may be time for him to hang it up. All right? I mean, it's all good things must come to an end. And after WrestleMania, who knows? We may have Ric Flair. We may have Kurt Angle. We may get a new GM. What does that mean for Foley, though? Does he stick around and do other things, or is it finally time for him to step away from the company?
I think you're on the totally wrong track with this. I think you're on the totally wrong track, and I think that there's more going on here. But we'll discuss this more later.
I don't want to.
No, we're gonna.
Okay, whatever.
No, you know what? We're gonna.
AJ Styles fired. I'm telling you, it's been a busy week in the WWE.
Guess so.
Well, yes, folks, if you watch SmackDown Live, AJ Styles was fired because he put Shane McMahon's head through a limo window. How many people can say they want to do that to their boss?
Oh, man.
You know, don't answer that question.
Yeah.
But he was also challenged to a match at WrestleMania by Shane McMahon. So which one is it? I know, obviously, this is a storyline, and, you know, Shane versus AJ has the potential to steal the show at WrestleMania. But look, I just hope, whatever comes of this, insert AJ Styles back in the world title picture after WrestleMania, please, because as much as Shane McMahon's an interesting opponent, he's not a full-time wrestler. And AJ is the best in the world, man. He can't be messing around with guys who can't really add much to whatever he has going on. So, hey, let's put that belt back on AJ sooner than later. Okay, Vince? I'm begging you here.
Well, you know, can I just throw a little thing in here because we've been talking about the movie, the Beyond the Mat documentary.
Yeah.
When Vince went into the ring years ago, it was because they had a shortage of bad guys.
True.
Right?
True.
So he said, I'll be the bad guy boss. He has this thing. I think you don't go back to that well. I don't think you can really.
Well, once who could do it better than Vince?
Right. Once you've been to the top,
yep.
It's like, oh, now my day shift supervisors. I don't care. You know what I mean? You want the guy at the top. And so I think it's weak from the McMahon side of things.
Shane McMahon's going to kill you.
You know what? Get in line.
Nice. And the number one story in the world of professional wrestling is Lucha Underground Seasons 1 and 2 are available on Netflix. Imagine that, folks. Not since that Punk, Will Ospreay, and that other Punk Ricochet battled each other in New Japan Pro Wrestling has a non-WWE story been the number one topic in the world of professional wrestling. But it is once again today. The entire wrestling world is talking about Lucha Underground because they finally made the jump to Netflix. Now, look, make no mistake about it. This is huge because most people don't even have the El Rey network, which is the only place previously that you could have watched Lucha Underground. But everyone has Netflix, as long as you have a legal subscription, by the way. All right, so all you little other people out there,
nice
it's a funny
caveat.
business. Yeah, I'm serious about that. But look, will Lucha Underground provide a legitimate threat to the Ring of Honors and even Impact Wrestlings of the world? I mean, a lot of promotions are battling for that number 2 spot. They'll never be number 1 because Vince McMahon and the WWE are number 1.
Yeah, but you know what the problem is? It's Vince McMahon. Once Vince is, you know, he's not going to live forever.
Stop it.
And,
yes, he will.
And I don't think. I think it goes with him. I do. I think a void opens up for these other places that have now modern platforms. Like Vince had to slug it out all those years and build the platform through pay-per-view and whatever. And only now, you know, the internet stuff and all that is now here. Whereas these other promotions are starting leaner and they can jump on these platforms quicker. They don't have to slog it out for years and years. They're in a position of strength, I think.
Well, you know,
and they're bringing new ideas to the table, as we were just saying. They're a little bit creatively bankrupt over there at WWE. And once Vince is gone, the mania of him, I think, is going to cause them to stall out a bit.
Well, real quick, first of all, we weren't saying anything. That's nonsense you're talking about. That's number one. Number two, I think it's kind of disrespectful that you say this with so much glee.
Well, no, I'm
don't
just saying.
wish for their downfall.
No,
just don't do that.
Competition is good.
Yeah, but just don't do that.
There's nothing good about a monopoly, and they've held it for quite some time.
I think there's nothing good about you being disrespectful to Vince McMahon.
Well, because you're on his payroll. It's obvious.
You've heard what I think. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm a jerk?
Yep.
Are you sick of the Boston Bad Boy being disrespectful to Vince McMahon? Sound off. Head over to Facebook. Head over to Twitter. Type in Duke Loves Rasslin. Let us know. Up next, Simply Luscious.
This is the pastor of wrestling, Kevin West, and I'm listening to Duke Love Wrestling.
Folks, one of the reasons why professional wrestling is such an appealing form of entertainment is because the wrestlers are like superheroes come to life. They're stronger, faster, and overall tougher than the average person. And that includes a Boston Bad Boy, by the way. He's not very tough. Our next guest is legitimately one of the more physically and mentally tough wrestlers that I know. And listen, she's been kicking butt and taking names in the wrestling business for over the past 15 years now. So without further ado, welcome to the Duke Loves Wrestling podcast. You know her as Simply Luscious. We're talking about, hopefully I get this right now, Veronica Brazier.
Everybody says Brazier.
Well, you know.
Well, there seems to be a history with you in that area. So
I know, yeah. Jeez. So since we're there, because you brought us there, what happened with the injury to the breast there? Because, you know, we had Bryson on the show, and he said that you had an upcoming surgery coming up, and this is a couple weeks back. What happened?
Well, this was actually the second time it's happened. The first time, I had him for 15 years, and that's with wrestling and everything. And this time, it was only 6 years. So, I don't know, I guess it was just
they don't make them like they used to.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even when I was wrestling, like it was before. And I thought it was, well, I got some new gear, and I was like, is this the new bra or something? And it's like, it doesn't feel right. And then after the match, I came in, it was like, I was like, oh, it's gone.
Now, you said it happened twice. It's happened. Was it both the same breast?
The same boob, too.
It was.
And,
so
I didn't think about it. Doctor's like, it's because you're right-handed. I was like...
So you're right-handed, so it's getting more work when you're working with that side of your body? Is that how it works? Is it a certain move you're doing?
Just in general, like, I use my right... Well,
Duke had a suspicion you had some kind of fancy finishing move that was causing unnecessary injury.
I figured he must have did it with a bump.
It's not from anything like that.
Let me get this straight. You managed to deflate your boob twice, and both times it wasn't in the course of wrestling.
Nope.
Well, you see that, folks? You tune in to Duke Loves Wrestling. You learn all about fake boobs and when they explode and what have you there. As we said, we're talking to Simply Luscious. Now, you brought up TNA, and it's interesting because I remember Nurse Veronica, okay? Let me tell you something. Nurse Veronica, she was hot.
Mm-hmm.
She had the abs.
Sure.
Of course, she had the breasts, and more importantly, she could kick anybody's butt on the roster. I mean, Nurse Veronica was the real deal. So tell us about that time initially when you were with TNA and that stable that you were in charge of.
What was it, Bitch Slap?
That's right. See that?
Yes.
Bitch Slap was the name of her stable.
Well, why not?
I'm telling you. So what was that all about? How did you get selected to not only lead your own stable, but this whole Nurse Veronica thing? How did that come about?
Well, I did a show. I was living in Pennsylvania at the time, and I did a show on a Saturday, and I met Perry Saturn. He was on the show, and he saw me work, and he's like, oh, my God, you're amazing. And I had heard about TNA, but at the time you had to, like, drive to Tennessee for your tryout, and then they tell you if you got whatever. And the next day he called me. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna fly you in," and I was like, "Okay, cool." So I got there, and they're like, "You're gonna be Nurse Veronica," and they had like this little, the sleaziest of all sleazy like nurse outfits you could possibly find.
It was awesome.
And back then, I was like offended because like I was a wrestler. Like, how dare you think of me that way? Now, like, I don't want to go into too much detail, but now I realize, you know what? I should have just done that. I could have just walked out there in a little outfit, and I wouldn't be hurt like now I am now because I wanted to really wrestle and all these kind of crazy matches. Like in Mexico, I did like light bulbs one time, which I never did that again. But like,
oh no,
I go to Japan and wrestle, like, you know. And I just wish hindsight now, I wish I would have just put on a sexy outfit and just walked around, and I wouldn't be in the pain I am now.
Well, you know, it's funny that you mentioned that because this past weekend I rewatched Beyond the Mat. As you know, rest in peace, Dennis Stamp. We mentioned him earlier in the show there. He was a great, interesting character on it. I even had Boston Bad Boy. He even checked it out, too. But during Beyond the Mat, Mick Foley, he brings up the fact at one point that he doesn't want to be known as the guy that just pulls the sock out of his underwear every day. But then after he got his head bashed in by The Rock, and he saw how it affected his family, and you know, he had this nasty concussion and what have you, he said, you know something? I guess I am going to be the guy that's known for pulling the sock out of my underwear all the time because I don't want to have to go through this physical pain and what have you and anguish again.
Yeah, whatever gets you over. That's what I did right after I got out of Shawn's school. When I graduated, I went to WCW, and Terry Taylor was there, and he pulled me aside because my ex-husband was with me, but they didn't want him. And they're like, "Hey, we want you, but we want you to be a Nitro girl." And I was like, "How dare you, sir?" And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. You were the Red Rooster? Like, oh, my God, I called him the Red Rooster. Like, how rude was that? Now that I think about it, you know what I mean? And I was just insulted, and I was like, no. And, oh, my God, I can't believe they kept me around. You know what I mean?
Listen, folks, when I said that we were going to have Simply Luscious, Nurse Veronica, would have you on here, the point was to also provide some insight to especially young women who are interested in breaking into the business and some of the do's and don'ts that may help them, you know, prolong their careers and what have you. So it's interesting that you talk about you had multiple occasions where people wanted to show you off because you're such an attractive person and you great shape and the whole 9 yards there, this beauty and muscle thing and what have you. But you just wanted to go out there and kick butt because you were also a great wrestler. You were trained properly and you knew what to do. And that balancing act of utilizing your beauty and your strength and what have you, but also being taken seriously, where is that line?
And back then it was even worse. Now I know there's like a girls division or I don't know, like it wasn't like that back in the day when I was there. It was like Lita, China, and then when I moved to Philly I met Mickey, Alexis Lurie back then. So it was hard. And I don't know, at Ring of Honor, I even quit there because they just had me as a valet. And Ring of Honor, like, come on. That's why I like teaching people now, like, shut up. Like, now look where Ring of Honor is, you know what I mean? Like, you always got to be nice to everybody because you never know who's going to be on top one day or running the biggest company in the world. You know, it's just, you never know. So now I've apologized to a lot of people, and I'm nice to everybody. And I feel wonderful about myself, and it's nice being nice to people.
So you made it through the circus, and you made it through the circus. You came out alive on the other end. What got you in that direction in the first place? What got you into heading towards wrestling as a career?
Actually, it was my ex-husband's idea, and we wanted to go to the Shawn Michaels Academy, and it was funny because I followed wrestling like when I was little. Well, I don't want to say my age. Okay, I'm 43. So back in the 70s, like when the Von Erichs like traveled around Texas and stuff, and they were in the Coliseums, like I liked it back then. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And when I got older, like I followed WCW, and I knew who Shawn Michaels was because I lived in San Antonio also. So my ex-husband knew all about it, and we went to his school. And about a month into it, I went and I got his VHS, The Best of Shawn Michaels. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know who this guy was, you know what I mean? Like, he was with Pam Anderson, you know?
He sure was.
So I was like,
He sure was.
You know? And I went to class the next day, and he's like, what? And I was just, like, staring at him, like, oh, my God. Like,
your perspective had changed on that VHS.
You know? And I still, to this day, I don't know, like, the history of everybody. Like, my husband knows everything that everyone's ever done. Like, their first debut match. Like, he knows the dates and everything.
That's like me dealing with Duke every week on this show. I don't know anything, and he just goes on and on and on. But when you first went to the academy, so was it sort of like just a fun thing to do, or were you guys both looking to make a career out of it?
Well, I was going to be a ballet, and then his ballet, and then I was like, hey, I can do every move that he can do, you know what I mean? He didn't want me to wrestle, so actually we ended up getting a divorce. He got hurt, quit wrestling, and I started becoming a wrestler.
Wow, that's
so you
an
persevered.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I just went with it.
And you know, it's funny because I gotta, and I hope I'm not gonna embarrass you here, but I gotta bring something up. One of your trainers actually had this to say about you. Veronica showed determination when there were outside elements pushing her back. I know some would have quit, but she broke away and pursued her dream. And for that, I'm proud to know her.
Aw, that was Rudy.
It sure was. It sure was. And he has a high regard for you. And in fact, you were the first, and at the time, the only female to graduate from the Shawn Michaels Texas Wrestling Academy.
Yes, sir.
So who else? You mentioned Michael Shane, who's Matt Bentley, Shawn Michaels' cousin. But who were some of the other people that were part of the class that you were part of?
The class before me, there was Spanky,
Brian
American
Kendrick.
Dragon,
Yep, Daniel Bryan. Wow.
And then Michael Shane, like you said, and so they would be in our class. They would come and like help us out, you know.
So what was it? What's the difference between wrestling a woman and wrestling a guy? Because you literally broke into the business training with and wrestling guys.
With guys. Well, yeah, it was hard too because like I didn't even know like how to do stuff for ballet. And, like Shawn like walked around once and like acted like he pushed his boobs together and was like trying to be a ballet. Because I said, like I told you, I didn't really watch it. So he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. I don't know. Like he can't, you know, like even bumping so much like. I know it's too much information, but like my period got messed up for a while, and I had no one to talk to. You know.
Wow.
So and it was just weird, like you know. So he didn't have. I don't know. It's hard. So I met Jazz and I met Mickey. So I kind of had someone to talk to about my girl problems.
Let me ask you: was that because of taking the bumps in wrestling, or is that unrelated to wrestling?
Yeah, I think it was because I was training like 4 times a week, and we would go from like, we did like running and circuit training and just bump after bump after bump, just like hours and hours of training. So it definitely did have something to do with it.
Well, I gotta ask this question.
I couldn't talk to anyone about it. I was like,
I gotta ask this question because we're here, and I think that it's an important question to ask because, you know, pro wrestling is a male-dominated sport. And we don't really take the time to consider the female and what's going on with her body and what have you, and especially with that time of month and what have you. How the heck do you wrestle on your period? I mean, what is that even? What is that? How do you deal with that?
That's not even the worst part. The worst part is like being around all the guys. Like from the time I started, like my ex-husband said it too. Like, oh, you'll have to. I know it's a PG show, but you have to do this and this in order to make it.
Which is so disrespectful to a female athlete.
Yeah, he's telling me this in the van, like to my face, and I'm just like, I just got rid of my husband who treats me that way, and I got to hear it from this guy.
Wow. Well, you know, we had a great example.
I'm crying.
We had a great example of the opposite of that a couple of weeks ago when Susan Tex Green we talked to her on the phone, and she just basically kicked ass. And when someone told her she couldn't do something, she kicked ass even harder. And you know, she had teachers who taught her how to work stiff in the ring, which is how she got past Moolah for the belt. So it's almost like, you know, you have that same kind of thing. Like, all right, you're gonna say all this crap to me, I'm just gonna kick your ass even harder. And I think that's an interesting theme amongst the women wrestlers. And I think that's why it's doubled down hard for a woman to be successful, because it is male dominated, and you got to listen to it. You know, you're not in a vacuum. You don't get to go to the all women's school. You got to fight the guys to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
No matter what you do, they'll always think that, oh, it's because you're a girl. Oh, you got it because you're a girl, or because you got boobs.
So
they don't realize how high.
You
You don't realize what the maintenance is on those
I know.
boobs.
Geez,
They didn't even
might
know.
Explode. So how do you last in the wrestling business as long as you have? What do you attribute that to? Because let's be honest here, you've been in the business almost 20 years now, which is amazing to say because you look like you're barely over 25. You still look great. We've seen some latest pictures of you from a few shows recently. So how do you stay in the business as long as you have? What do you attribute that to?
I think the looking young part is because I didn't have kids till I was 40. I went really hard. Like, I was in Mexico. Like, I'd fly from Japan to Mexico, and then I'd fly back here, do some shows. I was always on the road, like, gone a lot. So it was more like vacation to me and getting to see the world. And I don't know, it just went by really fast. I can't even tell you, like.
And you know something? It's still going, which is the best part. I mean, you just had a show a couple weeks ago.
I was kind of quitting. I was going to quit, and then, like, I met my husband, and he just loves it so much. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be at the show. He's going to be at the show. Might as well make it a family thing. And then I go out there, and I'm like, hey, I still got it. Like,
Is that a really big difference? I mean, you mentioned a few times that previous partners you had didn't support you in it, and they were kind of condescending toward you. And to have a guy like Bryson, who, after talking to him, he worships you. So
yeah, he does.
And
he makes me feel so good about myself. I'm like, holy cow! Like,
so that's a great inspiration for your career too. I mean, like you said, you can make it a family thing and just and push on with that.
Yeah, we have like a little wagon, and our kids go, and
Nice.
I go wrestle, and then they're like, Dada, and my daughter's like, that's my dada, and they love it. Like, now they want to wrestle.
That's awesome.
There we go.
Now,
That's all they do all day. Like,
we brought it up now, so I got to ask you this: when you first met Mr. Studtacular, okay,
I hated him.
so you got to give us the scoop on this because you even went so far as to send Hardcore Hack, Mr. Sandman himself, out there to stiff him, to beat him up in the ring with a chair. So let's start from the beginning here. When you first met Mr. Studtacular, what happened? What rubbed you the wrong way so much?
Well, it was more of a girl thing. It was a silly girl thing. Like, he was dating one of my good friends' friends, and my boyfriend at the time was like, oh, well, his Facebook says he's married, so he's cheating on her, blah, 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 blah. And so he turned out to help me find my keys that night. And he says I stole his kick pads, but he gave them to me. And
yeah, but you did lose one of them, didn't you lose one?
You lost one of his kick pads. Come on.
Yeah, but that's not stealing. Like, taking from someone is, he knew I took them, so I didn't steal his kick pads.
Well, he
Yes,
expected to get them back.
Yeah.
You still haven't given them back.
Yeah, I think the jury's still out on that.
Now tell us the Sandman thing, because I know that Sandman he's an ECW legend. The guy walks to the ring smoking a cigarette and drinking a beer. He bashes himself in the head with the beer to cut himself open. So imagine this guy does that to himself. What is he going to do to his opponent?
Well, yeah,
really intimidating dude, right? So
One
you
time
get
we-
that.
we
Hold
were
on. You get that guy to beat up on Bryson. So we need to know about that first before anything else. Why did you choose him of all people?
Because he was going to be here, and
It's convenient.
He was my best friend, and I tell him everything. He's like a girl. He's like my girl.
He's like
He's like a girl. The guy that busts his own head open.
We got to write that down as a quote if we ever talk to
you
him.
wouldn't think it, but Sandman is very, very intelligent, and he's very, very sensitive, and he's the sweetest, kindest guy you'd ever meet in your life.
Absolutely, and he actually told you he didn't want to beat Bryson up, but you made him do it.
Well, he didn't tell me that, and I had told him before. He goes, "Okay, tell me, kid, which one?"
Unbelievable. So you went from beat this guy up for me, I'm stealing his stuff, to then you married the guy.
I didn't steal it. He gave it to me.
Sure, I don't want any problems, so sure. but then you married the guy. So now hold on, let's recap this. She ruined his relationship with the girl he was with.
I did.
Right?
Yeah.
He's gross.
And she put her in front to see him get beat up.
She set him up.
She borrowed. We don't say she stole. She borrowed his kick pads.
Yeah. Lost
made,
one.
Made him find her keys, and then she married him.
Still haven't
No,
seen that kick
I
pad.
didn't see him after that for a while. Well, he came into my work because I bartended at the strip club, and he came in a couple weeks after
Awesome.
And then he
he was looking for his kick
told me
pads.
happy birthday. He kept poking me on Facebook. And he kept poking me and poking me and poking me.
I know what that means.
And then I messaged him. I'm like, hey, kid, you keep poking me, I'm going to knock you up or something like that. I don't even remember what I said.
Oh, you told him
And
you're
then
going to
he
knock
said
him up.
something about,
So what's the advice? What's the advice you give for women who are wrestlers or not about going for the nice guy? Because everyone says the nice guys finish last.
Yep.
And here you are with
It's
this nice
it's
family.
True. It's like,
Nice guys are
oh my
cool
God,
now.
He's so sweet. He cooks for me. Like
Wow.
I probably shouldn't say this. You're gonna get mad. He fixes my show bag for me. Like all my stuff's folded.
Wow.
All my makeup.
Well, I'm
What's wrong
sure.
with that?
Listen, he doesn't want you to get any other wrestlers to beat him up, so I'm sure that
And, no,
he better
and
do
I don't
he's
do that
going.
anymore.
He's going through your
Well, I
bag.
think
Make
he
sure you
did,
didn't steal
you know,
anything else from him.
I know, yeah. Good point. Good point. You want to make sure none of his kick pads are in that bag there. Now, listen, speaking of beating people up, I need a favor from you because I feel like you and I have a
Here we
connection
go.
now.
Yeah.
I feel like we've gotten to the point where I can say that you're my friend.
No, you can feel
Right?
free to hang up on us at
No,
any
no,
point
no, no.
after
Hold
this.
on. You're my friend now, right?
Yes, we're friends.
Okay, so I got a real problem. I got a thorn in my side. There's a young lady who's the current Texas women's champion, and I was fooled into thinking that she was a nice person, right?
Yeah.
But then she started mouthing off to me on my show, by the way.
Rightly
right?
so.
And saying crazy things like Roman Reigns, she's saying nice things about him, what have you. And then she threatened to stretch me, which I was not happy about, by the way. So her name is Myka Madrid. I want to, here's what I want to do. And you let me know if this sounds good to you. I want to put a stable together, okay? I want to get Alexa and Brianna, Sugar and Spice. I want to get the enforcer, Susan Tex Green, and I want to get you, Simply Luscious. Want to get you ladies together. We're going to call you Duke's Dynasty.
Oh boy!
And I want the four of you to beat the stuffing out of the Texas Women's Champion, Myka Madrid.
This is completely out of control.
So will you do that for me? And let the whole world know. Will you do that for me, please, Simply Luscious?
Well, I recently wrestled her, but I got disqualified.
Wait a minute.
See, they cheated her. They cheated Simply Luscious.
Above and beyond that, you are the first wrestler, female or male, to agree to do anything for Duke.
That's not true.
No.
Susan Tex Green says she will defend my honor.
Yeah, oh boy.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what?
So now I have Simply Luscious. She's going to defend my honor as well.
We're an alliance.
See, we're an
my
alliance.
God.
Duke's Dynasty. I'm telling you.
I'm going to get Rudy on the phone. I got to
Way
put an end to
better
this
than
right
the
away.
crap. I like it.
Oh, please. Now, look, hey, while you're at it, since you're in the business of beating people up for me, I got one more problem that I need solved, too. And I think...
What do you want to do? Have her do your taxes for you, too?
She's going to do all my dirty work for me. And I think with you and your muscles and your resolve, you're just the person to handle this next one for me because he's even worse than that Myka Madrid. Let me tell you something. There's a guy, okay, who is nothing but a pumped up, overstuffed punk from the gym, and he's my arch nemesis by the name of Roman Reigns.
Oh, boy.
And let me tell you something, Simply Luscious. I want this guy to get rid of his contract, to get out of this business, and to get out of my life. So I need to know from you, because you are the baddest woman on the planet, I need to know from you that you're going to go down there and you're going to, after you finish with Myka Madrid, you're going to straighten out that no-good Roman Reigns for me. So tell the whole world, tell them right now that Roman Reigns is next on your list. You're going to straighten him out as well. Tell them.
So I gotta do Myka and Roman?
Yes. Tell them you're going after Roman.
I
Tell
heard
them.
Roman's a nice guy, though.
I love it. I love it. Once again, Duke just shot himself in the foot with his insane premise. He doesn't realize that in real life people don't have arch nemeses.
Okay.
He's completely
I
insane.
told you I was nice now.
Yeah,
Okay.
and she has a
Myka,
family.
Okay.
She's got kids she got to do.
You know something?
She might help you out
I
with.
had to find a sitter.
Yeah, she's got to find a sitter.
You know
what do you
something.
want
All
her to do for you
let
here?
me explain something to you because I think we have a failure to communicate here. There's a comprehension
you've
issue
got a-
here.
you've got a failure of
okay?
comprehension.
I didn't ask you, Simply Luscious, to come on this show, okay, and to embarrass me by
No, you did that yourself.
by sitting here and defending that punk Roman Reigns. So you know what? I think I'm going to call up Jazz. Okay, I'm going to call up Jazz and I'm going to have her straighten you out because it's clear.
See how he turns
that
on you
You've
so
lost
quickly?
you've lost your mind. You've forgotten your way. So I'm going to have Jazz put you back on the straight and narrow here for defending that punk Roman Reigns, because you don't do that on my show, okay? I'm not happy with her.
I'll send my kids after you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
And,
Hold on.
and the husband of yours, too. He'll jump right in because I'm going to call him, too, now.
Listen.
Just because I want to watch Duke get stretched by a family.
No.
Oh, it'll be a family thing. A husband and wife. And they'll just take you out. It'll be great.
I'm going to tell you something right now, Simply Luscious. If you touch me, I will sue.
Oh, boy.
And you tell your kids that, too. If they touch me, I will sue. Okay?
Hey, Don King, wrap it up here, would you?
Well, listen, if bookers want to get in touch with Simply Luscious, what's the best way they can reach out to you if they want you to come to their shows or do an autograph signing or what have you?
Hit me up on Facebook on my Simply Luscious page. More up to date, Mr. Spectacular. He's always on Facebook, and
he handles her light
actually,
work.
I'm going to let him start handling everything. He does everything else. Poor guy.
Nice.
He's cooking. He's folding laundry.
Yep.
He's Facebooking.
Yep.
He's watering the lawn.
When I had my surgery, he was really doing everything.
I'm gonna have to babysit your kids just so I don't get beat up. I'm telling you, I can already see where this is going here. Her name is Simply Luscious. Listen, we're gonna have you come back in the not too distant future because word on the street is that you're slowly working on a book about your career.
I am.
So we're gonna have to. You're gonna have to give us that exclusive when that book gets completed. There, we'll have you come on and talk about the book.
Oh, and don't forget my shirts come out May 1st.
Oh, the shirts. Wait, what shirt? What does the shirt say?
Poppin' crowds and poppin' boobs.
What in the world? Oh my God, folks. We took you on the ride this time.
Absolutely. Now, I'm a little, I just want to, I know we didn't have time to get into it.
Yeah,
but
because she had the kids coming back and all that.
Well, you know, again, you took up enough time. You're already booking her a couple of weeks out to fight your battles for you.
Fight my battles.
But she sort of broke through in a way that a lot of women hadn't up until that point with the Ring of Honor, right? I mean,
Well, I mean, even going back to the Texas Wrestling Academy.
Yeah.
She was the only woman there, and there's a whole bunch of guys. Most people didn't even make it. They didn't even graduate, but she did.
And she's the only
woman at the time to graduate from there. There's been many since, but at the time she was it. And then she manages to make it not only on WCW TV, which is crazy, but then she makes it in the Ring of Honor where she really made her name there.
And that was right out of the bat. There was almost no waiting.
Within the first year. Like literally she was done with training and she gets pushed to that point because she was really that good and that attractive. So it's an interesting dichotomy here because we're talking about a situation where, and she talked about it a little bit, but what do you do when you want to wrestle and you want to be known for your athleticism, but you're this attractive person, and they want to feature you in that way. They want to show you off as a beautiful, strong person. You know, it's really unfortunate because
it's also it's fascinating because again we referenced it earlier that we talked to Susan Green. And she went through I think a similar thing a generation before.
Way before.
And it was like, wow, so all this time, so women were wrestling in the 60s, 70s, and they were already out there doing it. But even 25 years later, 30 years later, they're still facing this
same problems,
bias. And it's not even until recently that not only are female wrestlers promoted to sort of equal stature on TV,
or they're main eventing
main eventing. I would venture to say there's probably still some inequity there behind the scenes and in the business side of it. But, I mean, this is now how many years later, even after Luscious was involved. And it's still a fight.
And you know something, and I'm going to say it, and I hope I'm not speaking out of school here, but part of the reason why Simply Luscious is not in the, let's say, in the WWE or something right now is because she would not allow promoters to put her in that box and keep her in that box. Where
she wants
she's
to
just
do her
the eye
thing.
candy.
That's right.
She wants to wrestle.
Exactly.
So she went to Japan. She went to Mexico. She went all over the world and did all these light bulb matches and crazy stuff.
We're touching upon a thread that runs through our culture, which is many times strong women are viewed in a negative light.
Yes.
Especially in corporations, in any kind of business. You know, you see, a female construction worker. Imagine with someone who wants to be a construction worker. I know a few that have worked in the industry, office and even on the ground. Imagine what that's like. I mean, all you want to do is go out there and build stuff, and you're facing this insanity. You know, never mind these people trying to be on TV, or even if you're going, government or whatever. You know, this is sort of a little microcosm of that.
And here's the even crazier part. This woman broke down barriers and made it possible for people after her to be taken more seriously. Right. And I don't even think she realized it.
No. Well,
again,
a lot of people don't. A lot of the people who have done the first, they say, it's just what I did.
It's just what I did.
It's just what I did.
Yeah.
It's what I did, and then it turns out, well, everybody, who came after me benefited from it, which is good.
It's amazing.
And it's like, we've talked to Rudy, and how many women has he trained since?
I know.
And even continuing to this day.
Yes, who are champions and who are making it into the NXT system, which is a WWE and what have you there. And it really boggles my mind, though, when you can be responsible for so much and you don't even realize it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Again, I think we're touching upon, and I think it's appropriate. This is Women's Month, isn't it? March.
Sure is.
March.
Sure is.
And so, again, this is a common thing. It's interesting that even so far down to just something as wrestling, where women face this kind of thing, and in an industry where women's looks are part of the game.
Absolutely.
It's not like, a computer company or something where a woman's, it's her intellect. And she has to be smart enough to do promos, has to look good enough to be, so they can hit all these criteria and still
be treated as less than.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to me.
It's disgraceful. It really is.
But I think there's a shift. I hope there's a shift, especially in the back office stuff. But obviously, like I said, there's main events now.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the trajectory it's going to. And I could foresee, actually, and I can make a prediction that women will eclipse men in wrestling.
I hope
think.
so.
I think,
hope
you know
so.
what I mean? Just because sex sells.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
Think about all the shows, Real Housewives and the Kardashians. These are women-focused television shows, reality TV, and wrestling is a spin-off of that.
And you can snicker at the examples that the Boston Bad Boy just made, but once again, these are women-driven shows, and they are running the shows.
That's right.
and what have you. So hey, they're making the money off the shows, which is not a bad thing.
And we all know that the big companies like WWE, they're going to follow the money.
Absolutely.
And without no compunction about doing that. So it'll be interesting to see if as the women rise, what happens to the typical and historical balance between the two.
Good point. Folks, up next, we have more of your listener-submitted questions, a.k.a. Ask Duke. But before we get to any of that, Simply Luscious brought up the fact that her husband, Mr. Studtacular, he loves to cook, and that was the way to her heart. And the way to my heart is Barnyard Cheese. Okay? Folks, you got to head over to barnyardcheese.com and check out their awesome lineup of delicious meats and sandwiches and cheeses. They even have some great drinks.
Breakfast
sandwiches, award-winning breakfast sandwiches. And, they are revamping their entire menu.
Really?
Yes. Now, look, I already told you that they're making the Duke sandwich, right? They're still fine-tuning that, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what they're fine-tuning.
I asked them if they would be so kind to make a Boston Bad Boy sandwich. I did put that out there.
Boy.
And you know what they said?
Yeah.
Who's the Boston Bad Boy? Of course. So,
you know what? No, I like to fly under the radar. I found out, speaking of which, one of your little minions mentioned me on Twitter. I don't use Twitter.
Oh, boy.
And one of your little minions,
here we go,
whose name rhymes with dingo, mentioned me on Twitter, totally out of the blue, and he starts mouthing off.
Yeah.
Because he got conned by a fake Twitter account. He fell hook, line, and sinker for it.
Hey.
And then somehow my name got dragged into it.
Yep.
So what I want you to know is that I don't care that there's not a Twitter account that I have. I don't care that I don't have a sandwich.
Oh.
Because unlike you, I don't need all this popularity surrounding me. I do what I do, which is make this show great.
Yeah, you do what you do, which is be the complete joke that you are.
Yeah, I could end the show right now. You better be careful. I'm going to end the show. I'm going to go down to Barnyard Cheese. I'm going to eat some cheese, and I'm going to tell them where they can go and how to get there.
Nice.
How about
Well,
that?
visit barnyardcheese.com, folks. Enjoy.
All right, this is the Maverick from NWL, also known as Moonshine Mantel, and you're listening to Duke Loves Wrestling.
All right, Boston Bad Boy. I'm feeling real good today, and I'm sure you have plenty of questions.
Well, I have
Ask
some
Duke.
questions.
All right. Well, hey, what do you got?
And
Lay
as
something on us
usual,
here.
we're going to get through as many as we can before I get aggravated with you and your people.
We know that's not going to take long. So.
No, well, again, you guys set yourselves up for this. It's, you could be nice. You could be normal. You could ask good questions. It's not my fault you can't get it together for one segment of the show here.
Break. Just ask the questions, wise
All
guy.
right, let's see here. So the first question comes from Faith's mom, Elizabeth.
Oh.
I assume you know who Faith is.
Gotta have faith.
So the answer is no.
The faith.
Please stop. Again, you're going to get us in trouble. We don't have the rights to
that's right. Rest in peace, George Michael.
Yeah,
that's right.
They're going to sue us. She asks, what are your thoughts on fans who want to know the real person behind the wrestling gimmick? Should the wrestlers go back to kayfabe, or is it too late?
Wow. That's a hell of a question. It's funny, and some of our previous guests have talked about this. It's a fine line. If wrestlers weren't giving fans the time of day, then I wouldn't know any wrestlers. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I want the wrestlers to shut off the fans and not get to know them. Because, in fact, I know situations where fans have been there for the wrestlers when they've needed assistance.
Sure.
Especially as they get older.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And the fans are committed.
The fans are committed. The real fans.
We've talked to some of them, some of the super fans.
Yeah, Dave.
Yep.
Yeah, he's...
so guys like that are as invested in that as anything else they're into.
And you don't want to close the door on people like that because they could help improve your quality of life.
Again, and we were talking about the Red Sox last week.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Who I always forget his name. How he's being sort of mouthing off. And listen, do you really want your fans to be your enemies? I don't know.
That's just not good practice. But I will say this, though. There should be a screening process. If I could give any advice to
how do you mean?
The wrestlers out there, you can't let your guard down and open the door to everybody.
Right. Well, that's just good in general, right?
Yeah. So you should feel people out and figure out.
Well, you have to have a public persona and a private persona.
Absolutely.
And this is interesting because it goes under this whole thing that we're talking about in America now, which is privacy, right?
Yep.
And is anything private anymore? Mm-hmm. If your emails are not private, then you don't really have the freedom of privacy. So if you're working as a wrestler, you have this interesting built-in ability to have a separate persona.
Yes.
That you can use to interact with your fans or whatever. And if that persona is genuine, I think if it's a great enough persona, you don't need to switch gears to interact with your fans.
Bingo.
I mean, unless you're that guy who made the little kid cry. I forget his name.
You're going to start with Kevin Owens again
Kevin
now?
Owens, that's right.
And,
so there's a perfect example.
Be careful.
It's a perfect example of someone who doesn't know the boundaries and the fine line between his gimmick and being just a nice human being to his fans.
Just go to the next question.
You can be a heel.
Disrespectful.
You can be a heel without making a little kid cry. That's all
you
I'm
can't. That's the point. Of
How
being
many
a
little
heel.
kids did Stone Cold Steve Austin make cry?
I don't know.
Yeah, probably zero.
I don't know.
There was no footage of it. I challenge you to find some footage of it.
And when I find it, I'm going to really put your name on it.
Good luck with that.
Next question.
All right. The next question is from the High Yellow Heartthrob. Is that a person?
What a name.
Yeah. Is that a person or what? I don't know. It's a phrase.
Hey, that's who they are.
Is that like Old Yeller?
It could be.
Boy,
Could
hopefully it doesn't end the same way.
Well,
but it depends on how this question goes.
Jeez.
They ask, a while back, Eva Marie colored her hair black and posted hot pictures on Instagram of herself in Calvin Klein underwear.
Ooh.
Who are these people? Recently, Nikki Bella colored her hair black and posted pictures of herself in Calvin Klein underwear. What the hell do you think that's all about? And I didn't add the hell. That was a quote. What the hell do you think it's all about, Duke?
Well, I mean, we know what this is all about. And it goes
cross-promotion
back
with
to
Calvin Klein?
Well, who knows about that? That's actually a good idea. But The Miz has been talking about this on SmackDown. And it's kind of a worked shoot, meaning that they know that The Miz is going to say some pretty crummy things. And what he's saying is probably how he feels and how a lot of other people feel. Nikki Bella is fake. She doesn't have her own personality. She doesn't have her own anything. And when she sees somebody else doing something that makes sense, she does it.
Did you just say within the span of like 4 minutes that wrestlers have they should have a good kayfabe and they should have a good gimmick, and now you're saying she's fake and that's a bad thing?
Well, she doesn't have a good gimmick. She's stealing from everybody else, which is a no-no.
Maybe that's
in
her
wrestling.
gimmick.
No, but that's a no-no in wrestling.
No,
just like that punk John Cena. He's stealing from everybody else.
In Marvel Comics, there is a mutant whose power is that they can absorb the powers of the other mutants. They don't have their own power.
Okay.
So why does that work in that comic book world and not in this comic book world?
Because Nikki Bella is not a superhero.
Well, but she's a wrestler.
What is her superpower?
Well, what I'm saying
that
is
she's
the
annoying.
Superpower,
Is that what her superpower
let's call the
is?
superpower.
She's annoying.
Let's say superpower equals gimmick.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Right. Because you have all these guys that have gimmicks.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's their sort of superpower. They have a finishing move.
Sure.
They have a whole thing. They have costumes. Everything. Maybe her thing is that she just steals everybody else's thing.
Her thing is that she's annoying, and the fans don't like it. And you know what? She's afraid of taking real bumps, which is why she's going to retire after WrestleMania. And then she forces John Cena to get into a mixed tag match with her, something that I'm sure he doesn't want to do. This is all because she's just, you know.
What do you mean? You have all this insight?
I'm done with her.
You know what? I'm done with you in this question.
Oh, please. Okay. Well,
and you know what? I'm done with all the questions. No,
I'm
done with all the questions.
I know we got more questions. What's going on here?
Nope.
Oh, my Buddha. Here we go.
So earlier we were talking about it, and like you said, I recently dove in headfirst into the Beyond the Mat documentary, which I had not done before, and I really wished I had jumped on it earlier.
Yeah.
And
you were sending me commentary the whole time you were watching.
Well, just because, again, I can only take so much of modern wrestling because Raw is ridiculous, and Vince doesn't know what he's doing right now.
Stop it right now.
But I love the people of wrestling. I love the characters. Again, talking about real life. Who are the fans, and who are the guys that do this for a living, and what is that interaction? And I'm sure most of the listeners have at least heard of this documentary, and probably most have seen it.
Yeah, Beyond the Mat.
Yeah, Beyond the Mat. So that movie has the late Dennis Stamp in it. Also, Jake the Snake, Hall of Famer, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Terry Funk. And so you mentioned on Raw this past Monday, Mick Foley was slapped by Stephanie McMahon and then fired.
Yep.
So here's my question. And these guys are all players. And I think Stephanie's in it as a kid. She's sitting next to her father.
She is.
With the headset on.
Yep.
And so all these guys are involved back then, men and women. And so my question is this: how much is enough? How much is enough when it comes to abusing Mick Foley? Now, we know Mick likes the abuse. Part of his thing was he likes to be the guy that can take the hit. That's to him. That's the interesting part of it to him. How much can I push myself? But realistically, how far is Vince going to push it? I mean, is it till this guy's actually dead? He dies in the ring?
All right. Stop that right now.
When does it end? I mean, again, he went through the Undertaker match, right? He goes through the cage, unplanned, almost dies there. Then, as that movie ends, he gets slammed almost to death with a steel chair from The Rock. And his family's watching the whole thing, which I thought was a brilliant plant, by the way. McMahon loved the idea of having his family in the front row because it just added to the whole thing. But he concussed. He's out of his mind there. He walks away, but I mean, he took a beating. Hereto unknown. Where does it end? Does it end with this guy? Do they let him die in the ring?
All right. First of all, I don't even understand the question because let's just keep this in mind here. This is
the question
pro
is
wrestling.
Vince McMahon is in charge of all this.
Show business.
Vince McMahon is in and again,
this
show.
Is show business.
It's a show.
Okay.
Correct?
Yeah,
it's a show.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So when you watch a James Bond movie, he doesn't actually shoot people. It's a show.
Well, we don't know that. But let's be serious here.
Yeah, let's please. That's what I'm asking you.
Let's be serious here.
So to be serious, Vince has a guy who's willing to take all the hits to his own detriment.
Good.
He'll go as far as you let him go.
Yeah.
Do you let him die in your corporation's ring?
Well, no.
If that's where they think the show should go.
I think you're being a little ridiculous and a little dramatic right now because nobody wants that to happen. But let me tell you something. Mick Foley owes his life to the professional wrestling business, okay?
Yeah, but he doesn't. Does he owe it to Vince McMahon to say that Vince can now take his life? What is this? Samurai?
No one's trying to. First of all, if you watched Beyond the Mat, which you claim you did, then you would know that Mick Foley was the one who was begging for all that stuff. Like the incident with The Rock, where The Rock's hitting him in the head with the chair. Mick Foley's the one who set that up. It was his idea.
If you look at that, but if you look at that video footage, if you watch it, I went back and went over. There's a point where he stands up because he's already out of it, and he looks towards The Rock to basically give him the signal like, hey, And The Rock hits him like 4 more, even harder.
He was feeding The Rock.
No,
okay?
he wasn't.
No,
You could tell
he turned his back to him, which is a sign that you're feeding him.
No.
If he would have stayed down, then that's the sign that it's over.
He's completely out of it.
Oh, hey. He wanted to be out of it.
He stands up, and he doesn't even have time to turn around.
He's a grown man. He wanted to be out of it. He said, knock me out. That's his idea.
He lost his ear.
Well, so what?
He's dozens of concussions.
That's part of the business.
He went through the cage with The Undertaker.
All right, well,
Speared through a flaming table.
That was pretty bad. That was pretty bad.
Kicked in the head by Randy Orton in a move that would have sent a football 70 yards.
Okay, the punt. Okay.
Yeah. And now he's getting slapped around by the boss's daughter and humiliated by being fired. In other words, what does Vince want to do? Kill this guy spiritually or let him actually physically die in the ring? Because I don't think there's any other option for a guy like McMahon.
Listen. Mick Foley was hired back, okay? First of all, he's in the Hall of Fame, but he was hired back. His daughter has a show on the network. His son is a writer for the WWE. I mean, literally, like I said, he owes his entire life to this company, and he continues to give. But that's what he wants to do.
But it's show business, okay? Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, you take off the garb, the makeup, or whatever it is, but he really has concussions. He really is missing an ear. He really took all those hits.
I don't know what your point is.
My point is, he's done it all for the show. The show is not real life. Therefore, he's probably given enough, and it's another insane move by Vince McMahon to either get this guy killed in the ring, or, if not, just humiliate him so that he probably just goes somewhere else and gets killed in a ring in Japan or somewhere.
Let me tell you something, all right? First and foremost, I don't feel sorry for Mick Foley or anybody else who signs up for this, okay? Like Ric Flair says, you're going to bleed, sweat, and pay the price of a pro wrestling lifetime.
This is not indentured servitude.
That's what it's about.
This is not. Right? Vince doesn't own anybody.
The man put his. He decided that he was going to do this. Okay, he could sit there and write.
But we know he's not right in the head because of all the hits he's taken.
Well, I take offense to what you're saying right now.
What I'm saying is, the guy.
He's a New York Times best-selling author. I take offense to what you're saying right now.
This whole MO he's got is that they all know. All right, this is like you, me and you, and you say to me,
"Yep,
boy, I really love drinking moonshine. I love drinking moonshine, and that's high-octane stuff, right?
Okay.
And you say, I really love drinking moonshine, and we drink once in a while, and we have a good time.
Okay.
But I know you'll drink it all night if I let you.
Oh, yeah?
Okay? So I know.
I don't even like moonshine.
I'm just going to let you do it. I'm just going to sit there. I'm not going to say, well, at least, I know this guy will go all the way if we let him. Why don't we just have him do what he does well?
So what do you want? You want them to fire Mick Foley for real?
No, listen, just write a proper show for him.
Show?
And don't let the guy get killed.
It's his idea.
But he's not the boss, is he? You just said McMahon's the boss. So don't give me this whole thing. You're talking double.
No,
he's the boss.
I think
he's not the boss.
I think the problem with you is that you don't understand pro wrestling, okay? This guy
I don't understand this style of pro wrestling, which is indentured servitude by Vince McMahon and company.
Vince McMahon is not making anyone do anything.
You just said he was the boss.
And the fact that you want to sit here and you want to get on your soapbox
and
you want to act like
his life.
No, you want to sit here and get on your soapbox and when a guy gives everybody in the guy's damn family a job, including his wife.
Yeah, well, it's the least he could do because he almost got the guy killed 15 times.
And that's why I got to wrap you up because I'm sick and tired of this.
I'm going to wrap you up with some of that barbed wire.
Thank you, Simply Luscious, for joining us today.
Chair.
And thank you for agreeing to beat up Myka Madrid for me. Folks, join us next week because the Boston bad boy, he's got his feelings hurt here. He's crying about nonsense right now.
I am not
crying about nonsense
I'm sticking
right
up for
now.
somebody,
Mick
a veteran,
a grown man.
Yeah, but you know what? It's called the right thing to do. It's business.
Author.
And you have no idea. You and Vic have no idea.
All right?